Tunisia is the northernmost country in Africa. It is a part of Maghreb region of North Africa, bordered by Algeria to the west and southwest, Libya to the southeast, and Mediterranean Sea to the north and east. Tunisia shares maritime borders with Italy through the islands of Sicily and Sardinia to the north and Malta to the east. It features archaeological sites of Carthage dating back to 9th century BC, as well as Great Mosque of Kairouan. Known for its ancient architecture, souks, and blue coasts, it covers 163,610 kilometers square and has a population of 12.1 million. It contains the eastern end of Atlas Mountains and the northern reaches of Sahara Desert. Much of its remaining territory is arable land. Its 1,300 kilometers of coastline includes African conjunction of western and eastern parts of Mediterranean basin. Tunisia is home to Africa's northernmost point, Cape Angela. Located on the northeastern coast, Tunis is the capital and largest city of the country, which is named after Tunis. Official language of Tunisia is Modern Standard Arabic. Vast majority of Tunisia's population is Arab and Muslim. Vernacular Tunisian Arabic is the most spoken, and French serves as administrative and educational language in some contexts but has no official status. Beginning in early antiquity, Tunisia was inhabited by indigenous Berbers. Phoenicians, a Semitic people, began to arrive in 12th century BC, settling on the coast and establishing several settlements, of which Carthage emerged as the most powerful by 7th century BC. The descendants of Phoenician settlers came to be known as Punic people. Ancient Carthage was a major mercantile empire and military rival to Roman Republic until 146 BC, when it was defeated by Romans, who occupied Tunisia for most of the next 800 years. Romans introduced Christianity and left architectural legacies like amphitheatre of Djem. In 7th century AD, Arab Muslims conquered Tunisia and settled with their tribes and families, bringing Islam and Arab culture. Later, large-scale Arab migration of Banu Hilal and Banu Sulaim tribes in 11th to 12th centuries accelerated this process. By around 15th century, region of modern-day Tunisia almost completely Arabaized. In 1546, Ottoman Empire established control, holding sway until 1881, when French conquered Tunisia. In 1956, Tunisia gained independence as Tunisian Republic. Today, Tunisia's culture and identity are rooted in this centuries-long intersection of different cultures and ethnicities. In 2011, Tunisian revolution triggered by dissatisfaction with lack of freedom and democracy under 24-year rule of President Zine El Abidine Ben Ali, overthrew his regime and catalyzed the broader Arab Spring movement across the region. Free multi-party parliamentary elections were held shortly thereafter. The country again voted for parliament on the 26th of October, 2014, and president on the 23rd of November, 2014. From 2014 to 2020, it was considered the only democratic state in the Arab world according to the Economist Democracy Index. After democratic backsliding, Tunisia is rated a hybrid regime. It is one of the few countries in Africa ranking high on Human Development Index, with one of the highest per capita incomes on the continent, ranking 129th in GDP per capita income. Tunisia is well integrated into the international community. It is a member of the United Nations, Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie, Arab League, Organisation of Islamic Cooperation, African Union, Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, Non-Aligned Movement, International Criminal Court, Group of 77. It maintains close economic and political relations with some European countries, particularly France and Italy, due to their geographical proximity. Tunisia also has an association agreement with the European Union and attained the status of a major non-NATO ally of the United States. Tunisia is situated on the Mediterranean coast of northwest Africa, midway between Atlantic Ocean and Nile Delta. It is bordered by Algeria on the west 965 kilometers and southwest, and Libya on the southeast 459 kilometers. It lies between latitudes 30 degrees and 38 degrees north and longitudes 7 degrees and 12 degrees east. An abrupt southward turn of Mediterranean coast in northern Tunisia gives the country two distinctive Mediterranean coasts, west-east in the north and north-south in the east. Though it is relatively small in size, Tunisia has great environmental diversity due to its north-south extent. Its east-west extent is limited. Differences in Tunisia, like the rest of the Maghreb, are largely north-south environmental differences defined by sharply decreasing rainfall southward from any point. Dorsal, eastern extension of Atlas Mountains, runs across Tunisia in northeasterly direction from Algerian border in the west to Cape Bon Peninsula in the east. North of Dorsal is Tell, a region characterized by low, rolling hills and plains, again an extension of mountains to the west in Algeria. In Kroumari, northwestern corner of Tunisian Tell, elevations reach 1,050 meters and snow occurs in winter. Sahel, a broadening coastal plain along Tunisia's eastern Mediterranean coast, is among the world's premier areas of olive cultivation. Inland from Sahel, between Dorsal and range of hills south of Gafsa, are the steppes. Much of the southern region is semi-arid and desert. Tunisia has a coastline 1,148 kilometers long. In maritime terms, the country claims a contiguous zone of 44 nautical kilometers and territorial sea of 22 nautical kilometers. The city of Tunis is built on hills slope down to Tunis Lake. These hills contain places such as Notre Dame de Tunis, Ras Tabia, La Rapta, La Casbah, Montfleury and La Manubia with altitudes above 50 meters. The city is located at the crossroads of a narrow strip of land between Lake Tunis and Sejumi. Tunisia is the 18th most water-stressed country in the world. Tunisia's climate is Mediterranean in the north with mild rainy winters and hot, dry summers. The south of the country is desert. The terrain in the north is mountainous, which moving south, gives way to hot, dry central plain. The south is semi-arid and merges into Sahara. A series of salt lakes known as Charts or Chats lie in an east-west line at the northern edge of Sahara, extending from Gulf of Gabes into Algeria. The lowest point is Chott el Jerid at 17 meters below sea level and highest is Jebel Ek Chambai at 1,544 meters. Tunisia is home to 5 terrestrial ecoregions: Mediterranean conifer and mixed forests, Saharan halophytics, Mediterranean dry woodlands and steppe, Mediterranean woodlands and forests, and North Saharan steppe and woodlands. Among Tunisia's tourist attractions are its cosmopolitan capital city of Tunis, the ancient ruins of Carthage, the Muslim and Jewish quarters of Djerba, coastal resorts outside of Monastir, and the nightlife-driven city of Hammame. According to the New York Times, Tunisia is known for golden beaches, sunny weather, and affordable luxuries. The country maintains 19,232 kilometers of roads with 3 highways. The A1 from Tunis to Sfax, A3 Tunis Beja, and A4 Tunis, Bizerte. There are 29 airports in Tunisia, with Tunis Carthage International Airport and Djerba Zarzas International Airport being the most important ones. A new airport, Enfidher, Hammame International Airport, opened in 2011. The airport is located north of Sousse at Enfidher and mainly serve the resorts of Hammame and Port El Kantaoui, together with inland cities such as Kairouan. 5 airlines are headquartered in Tunisia: Tunisair, Sifax Airlines, Carthago Airlines, Nouvelair and Tunisair Express. The railway network is operated by SNCFT and amounts to 2,135 kilometers. The Tunis area is served by a light rail network named Metro Ledger, which is managed by Transdu. According to CIA World Factbook, ethnic groups in Tunisia are Arab 98%, European 1%, Jewish and other 1%. According to 1956 Tunisian census, Tunisia had a population at the time of 3,783,000 residents, 95% consisting of Arabs and Berbers, 256,000 Europeans, and 105,000 Jews. Speakers of Berber dialects were 2% of the population. According to another source, the population of Arabs is estimated to be 98% and that of Berbers at 1%. Black Tunisians make up 10 to 15% of the population and mostly descended from sub-Saharan Africans brought to Tunisia as part of slave trade. Amazigh are concentrated in Daha Mountains and island of Djerba in the southeast and Kroumari mountainous region in the northwest. Ottoman influence particularly significant in forming the Turco-Tunisian community. Other migrated to Tunisia during different time periods, including West Africans, Greeks, Romans, Vandals, Phoenicians, Punics, Jews, French and Italian settlers. By 1870, Distinction between Arabic-speaking population and Turkish elite had blurred. From late 19th century to the period after World War II, Tunisia was home to large populations of French and Italians, 255,000 Europeans in 1956, although nearly all of them along with Jewish population left after Tunisia became independent. The history of Jews in Tunisia goes back 2,000 years. In 1948, Jewish population was estimated at 105,000, but by 2013 only about 1,000 remained. The first people known to history in what is now Tunisia were Berbers. Numerous civilizations and peoples have invaded, migrated, or assimilated into the population over the millennia with influences of population from Phoenicians, Carthaginians, Romans, Vandals, Arabs, Spaniards, Ottoman Turks and Janissaries and French. There was a continuing inflow of nomadic Arab tribes from Arabian Peninsula. After the Reconquista and expulsion of non-Christians and Moriscos from Spain, many Spanish Muslims and Jews arrived in Tunisia. According to Matthew Carr, as many as 80,000 Moriscos settled in and around Tunisia, which still contains a quarter known as Zuqaq al-Andalus, or Andalusia Alley. Arabic is the official language of Tunisia. Tunisian Arabic, known as Tounsi, is the national vernacular variety of Arabic used by the public. There is also minority speakers of Berber languages known collectively as Jebbali or Shelha. Actively spoken Berber languages are Djerba Berber on the island of Djerba and Matmata Berber in the city of Matmata. French also plays a major role in Tunisian society, despite having no official status. It is widely used in education, language of instruction in sciences in secondary school, the press and business. In 2010, there were 6,639,000 French speakers in Tunisia, or 64% of the population. Italian is understood and spoken by small part of Tunisian population. Shop signs, menus, and road signs in Tunisia are generally written in both Arabic and French. Tunisia's constitution declares Islam as official state religion, and the absolute majority of its population, or 98%, report to be Muslims, while 2% follow predominantly Christianity or Judaism. Tunisians enjoy significant degree of religious freedom, a right enshrined and protected in its constitution which guarantees freedom of thoughts, beliefs, and to practice one's religion. The country has a secular culture where religion is separated from not only political but also public life. Individual Tunisians are tolerant of religious freedom and generally do not inquire about a person's personal beliefs. The bulk of Tunisians belong to Maliki school of Sunni Islam, and their mosques are easily recognizable by square minarets. However, Turks brought with them the teaching of Hanafi school during Ottoman rule, which still survives among families of Turkish descent today. Their mosques traditionally have octagonal minarets. Prior to independence, Tunisia was home to more than 250,000 Christians, mostly Italian and Maltese ancestry. Many Christian Italian settlers left to Italy or France after independence from France. Today, Tunisia's sizable Christian community of over 35,000, composed mainly Catholics, 22,000, and to a lesser degree Protestants. Berber Christians continued to live in Nefzawa villages up until early 15th century, and the community of Tunisian Christians existed in the town of Tozeur up to the 18th century. The International Religious Freedom Report for 2007 estimates that thousands of Tunisian Muslims have converted to Christianity. Judaism is the third largest religion with 1,000 to 1,400 members. 1/3 of the Jewish population lives in and around the capital. The remainder lives on the island of Djerba with 39 synagogues, where the Jewish community dates back 2,600 years in Sfax and Hammame. Djerba, an island in the Gulf of Gabes, is home to El Ghriba Synagogue, which is one of the oldest synagogues in the world and the oldest continuously used. Many Jews consider it a pilgrimage site, with celebrations taking place once a year due to its age and the legend that the synagogue was built using stones from Solomon's temple. Although anti-Semitic violence has been reported, Tunisia and Morocco are said to be the Arab countries most accepting of their Jewish populations. There is also a Boharai community. Hundreds of international festivals, national, regional or local, filled the calendar year. Music and theatrical festivals dominate the national cultural scene. Several festivals take place annually. In summer are International Festival of Carthage in July, International Festival of Arts of Ma from late July to early August, and International Festival of Hammame in July and August. Carthage Film Festival held in October and November of every other year, alternating with Carthage Theatre Festival. Created in 1966 by Tunisian Minister of Culture to showcase films from Maghreb, Africa, and Middle East. In order to be eligible for the competition, the film must have a director of African or Middle Eastern nationality and have been produced at least 2 years before entry. The grand prize is Tarnet d'Or or Golden Tarnet, named for lunar goddess of ancient Carthage. The award is in the shape of her symbol, a trapezium surmounted by a horizontal line and a circle. The International Festival of Sahara, celebrated annually at the end of December, honors the cultural traditions associated with Tunisian desert, attracts tourists and musicians from all around the world, as well as horsemen who flaunt their saddles, local fabrics and skills. There are a number of musical festivals. Some honor traditional Tunisian music, while others, including Tabaka Jazz Festival, focus on other genres. In the city of Sousse, Carnival of Owusu is an annual festive and cultural event that unfolds each the 24th of July. It is a parade of symbolic chariots, fanfares, and folk groups from Tunisia and elsewhere, which takes place near the beach of Boujafar at the eve of the beginning of Owusu, heatwave of the month of August according to Berber calendar. Originally it was a pagan feast, Neptunalia, celebrating the god of the seas, Neptune in the Roman province of Africa, and might even go back to Phoenician times. The appellation Owusu is a possible deformation of Oceanus. Omek Tanno is an ancient Tunisian rainmaking festival inherited from Punic and Berber traditions involving invocations of the goddess Tarnet. It features the ritual use of the sculpted head of a woman, resembling the head of a girl's doll, which is carried in procession between houses of village during periods of drought by children singing the refrain Amek Tango, O women, ask God to rain. This song varies according to the region because the term shtar designates rain only in certain urban areas. Each housewife then pours a little water on the statuette, invoking rain. Farming methods reached Nile Valley from the Fertile Crescent region about 5000 BC and spread to Maghreb by 4000 BC. Agricultural communities in the humid coastal plains of central Tunisia were ancestors of today's Berber tribes. It was believed in ancient times that Africa was originally populated by Gaetulians and Libyans, both nomadic peoples. According to Roman historian Sallust, demigod Hercules died in Spain and his polyglot Eastern army was left to settle the land, with some migrating to Africa. Persians went to the west and intermarried with Gaetulians and became Numidians. The Medes settled and were known as Mori, later Moors. The Numidians and Moors belonged to the race from which Berbers are descended. Meaning of Numidian is nomad, and indeed the people were semi-nomadic until the reign of Massinissa of the Massili tribe. At the beginning of recorded history, Tunisia was inhabited by Berber tribes. Its coast was settled by Phoenicians starting as early as 12th century BC, Bizerte, Utica. The city of Carthage was founded in 9th century BC by Phoenicians. Legend says that Dido from Tyre, now in modern-day Lebanon, founded the city in 814 BC, as retold by Greek writer Timaeus of Tauromenium. The settlers of Carthage brought their culture and religion from Phoenicia, now present-day Lebanon and adjacent areas. After a series of wars with Greek city-states of Sicily in 5th century BC, Carthage rose to power and eventually became the dominant civilization in the Western Mediterranean. The people of Carthage worshipped pantheon of Middle Eastern gods, including Baal and Tarnet. Tarnet's symbol, a simple female figure with extended arms and long dress, is a popular icon found in ancient sites. The founders of Carthage also established a Tophet, which was altered in Roman times. Carthaginian invasion of Italy led by Hannibal during Second Punic War, one of a series of wars with Rome, nearly crippled the rise of Roman power. From the conclusion of Second Punic War in 202 BC, Carthage functioned as a client state of the Roman Republic for another 50 years. Following the Battle of Carthage, which began in 149 BC during Third Punic War, Carthage was conquered by Rome in 146 BC. Following its conquest, the Romans renamed Carthage to Africa, incorporating it as a province. During Roman period, the area of what is now Tunisia enjoyed a huge development. The economy, mainly during the empire, boomed. The prosperity of the area depended on agriculture. Called the granary of the empire, the area of actual Tunisia and coastal Tripolitania, according to one estimate, produced 1 million tons of cereals each year, 1/4 of which was exported to the empire. Additional crops included beans, figs, grapes, and fruits. By 2nd century, olive oil rivaled cereals as an export item. In addition to cultivations, capture and transporting of exotic wild animals from the western mountains. Principal production and exports included textiles, marble, wine, timber, livestock, pottery such as African red slip and wool. There was even a huge production of mosaics and ceramics, exported mainly to Italy in the central area of Djem, where there was the second biggest amphitheatre in Roman Empire. Berber bishop Donatus Magnus was the founder of Christian group known as the Donatists. During 5th and 6th centuries from 430 to 533 AD, Germanic Vandals invaded and ruled over a kingdom in northwest Africa that included present-day Tripoli. The region was easily reconquered in 533 to 534 AD during the rule of Emperor Justinian I by Eastern Romans led by General Belisarius, preluding a 165-year era of Byzantine rule. Between the second half of 7th century and early part of 8th century, Arab-Muslim conquest occurred in the region. They founded the first Islamic city in northwest Africa, Kairouan. It was there in 670 AD that the Mosque of Akbar, or the Great Mosque of Kairouan, was constructed. This mosque is the oldest and most prestigious sanctuary in the Muslim West, with the oldest standing minaret in the world. Also considered masterpiece of Islamic art and architecture. The Arab migration to Maghreb began during this time. The region in its entirety was taken in 695, retaken by Byzantine Eastern Romans in 697 but lost permanently in 698. The transition from Latin-speaking Christian Berber society to Muslim and mostly Arabic-speaking society took over 400 years, the equivalent process in Egypt and Fertile Crescent took 600 years, and resulted in the final disappearance of Christianity and Latin in 12th or 13th century. Majority of the population were not Muslim until late 9th century with vast majority during 10th century. Some Tunisian Christians emigrated, some richer members of society did so after the conquest in 698 and others were welcomed by Norman rulers to Sicily or Italy in the 11th and 12th centuries, the logical destination because of the 1200-year close connection between the two regions. The Arab governors of Tunis founded Aghlabid dynasty which ruled Tunisia, Tripolitania, and eastern Algeria from 800 to 909. Tunisia flourished under Arab rule when extensive systems were constructed to supply towns with water for household use and irrigation that promoted agriculture, especially olive production. This prosperity permitted luxurious court life and was marked by the construction of new palace cities such as Ulabeja and Raqqada. After conquering Cairo, Fatimids abandoned Tunisia and parts of eastern Algeria to the local Zirids, 972 to 1148. Zirid Tunisia flourished in many areas like agriculture, industry, trade, religious and secular learning. Management by the later Zirid emirs was neglectful though and political instability connected to the decline of Tunisian trade and agriculture. The depredation of the Tunisian campaigns by Banu Hilal, a warlike Arab tribe encouraged by the Fatimids of Egypt to seize northwest Africa, sent the region's rural and urban economic life into further decline. Consequently, the region underwent rapid urbanization as famines depopulated the countryside and industry shifted from agriculture to manufactures. The Arab historian Ibn Khaldun wrote that the lands ravaged by Banu Hilal invaders had become completely arid desert. The main Tunisian cities were conquered by the Normans of Sicily under the Kingdom of Africa in 12th century, but following the conquest of Tunisia in 1159 to 1160 by Almohads, the Normans were evacuated to Sicily. Communities of Tunisian Christians still exist in Nefzawa up to 4th century. Almohads initially ruled over Tunisia through a governor, usually a near relative of the Caliph. Despite the prestige of the new masters, the country was still unruly with continuous rioting and fighting between townsfolk and wandering Arabs and Turks, the latter being subjects of Muslim Armenian adventurer Karakush. Also, Tunisia was occupied by Ayyubids between 1182 and 1183 and again between 1184 and 1187. The greatest threat to Almohad rule in Tunisia was Banu Ghania, relatives of the Almoravids, who from their base in Mallorca tried to restore Almoravid rule over the Maghreb. Around 1200 they succeeded in extending their rule over the whole of Tunisia until crushed by Almohad troops in 1207. After this success, Almohads installed Walid Abu Hafs as the governor of Tunisia. Tunisia remained part of the Almohad state until 1230, when the son of Abu Hafs declared himself independent. During the reign of Hafsid dynasty from their capital Tunis, fruitful commercial relationships were established with several Christian Mediterranean states. In the late 16th century, the coast became a pirate stronghold. In the last years of Hafsid dynasty, Spain seized many of the coastal cities, but these were recovered by Ottoman Empire. The first Ottoman conquest of Tunis took place in 1534 under the command of Barbarossa Hayreddin Pasha, younger brother of Oruç Reis, who was the Kapıdan Pasha of Ottoman fleet during the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent. However, it was not until the final Ottoman reconquest of Tunis from Spain in 1574 under Kapıdan Pasha Uluk Ali Reis that the Ottomans permanently acquired the former Hafsid Tunisia, retaining it until French conquest of Tunisia in 1881. Attacks on European shipping made by corsairs from Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli. Yet after long period of declining raids, the growing power of European states finally forced its termination. The plague epidemics ravaged Tunisia in 1784 to 1785, 1796 to 1797, and 1818 to 1820. In 19th century, rulers of Tunisia aware of the ongoing efforts at political and social reform in the Ottoman capital. The Bey of Tunis then, by his own lights but informed by the Turkish example, attempted to effect a modernizing reform of institutions and the economy. Tunisian international debt grew unmanageable. This was the reason or pretext for French forces to establish a protectorate in 1881. In 1869, Tunisia declared bankrupt and International Financial Commission took control over its economy. In 1881, using the pretext of Tunisian incursion into Algeria, the French invaded with 36,000 army and forced the Bey of Tunis, Mohammed III as-Sadiq, to agree to the terms of 1881 Treaty of Bardo. With this treaty, Tunisia was officially made a French protectorate, over the objections of Italy. European settlements in the country were actively encouraged. The number of French colonists grew from 34,000 in 1906 to 144,000 in 1945. In 1910 there were also 105,000 Italians in Tunisia. During Second World War, the Protectorate of Tunisia was controlled by the collaborationist Vichy government in metropolitan France. The anti-Semitic statute on Jews enacted by the Vichy government was also implemented in Vichy-controlled Northwest Africa and other overseas French territories. Thus, persecution and murder of Jews from 1940 to 1943 was part of the Holocaust in France. From November 1942 until May 1943, Vichy-controlled Tunisia was occupied by Germany. SS Commander Walter Roff continued to implement the final solution there. From 1942 to 1943, Tunisia was the scene of Tunisia Campaign, a series of battles between the Axis and Allied forces. The battle opened with initial success by German and Italian forces, but the massive supply and numerical superiority of the Allies led to the Axis surrender on the 13th of May, 1943. The six-month campaign of Tunisia's liberation from Axis occupation signaled the end of the war in Africa. After liberation of Tunisia from Germans, the French regained control over the government and made participation in Nationalist Party illegal once more. Monsef Bey, who was popular amongst Tunisians, was deposed by the French. In 1945, after escaping French surveillance, Tunisian nationalist Habib Bourguiba arrived in Cairo. While there, he made contact with the Arab League. Later in 1946, after traveling to other Middle Eastern countries, he made his way to the United States to speak to both the United Nations at their headquarters at Lake Success and U.S. State Department officials in Washington, D.C., pleading the case of the Tunisian nationalists. As part of post-war Tunisia, a new all-Tunisian labor organization was formed, the Union Générale des Travailleurs, one of the stronger components of the nationalist group Neo-Destour. Habib Bourguiba made his way to the United States on the 13th of September, 1949. He attended the American Federation of Labor meeting in San Francisco, California. French opposed to his presence there, and the US feared political change in North Africa due to the looming presence of possible Soviet Union communist expansion. Djerba continued to plead to foreign leaders when he traveled to Italy on the 6th of November, 1951. His contacts included Alberto Mellini Ponce de Leon, Mario Toscano, and Licinio Vestri. De Leon was an old friend of Djerba who had helped free him from German captivity. Toscano was the head of Officio Studi e Documentazione in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Vestri was an Africanist scholar. Despite his best efforts, Italians remained neutral as they did not want to ruin relations with NATO ally France, nor did they want to hamper any possibility of future relations with Tunisia, as it served as a key part of the Mediterranean. French resident general in Tunisia, Jean de Hautecloque, left Tunis to Paris on the 25th of August, 1953, when he was replaced by Pierre Voizard. Voizard was previously French minister to Monaco. A month after his arrival in Tunis on the 26th of September, 1953, Voizard made many changes to ease tensions in Tunisia. He lifted press censorship and freed several political prisoners. He restored full powers of civil authorities and raised the state of siege in the Sahel. On the 26th of January, 1954, Voizard announced there would soon be new reforms in favor of granting more sovereignty to Tunisians while ensuring the interests of French and French citizens in Tunisia, at Cercle Républicain d'Outre-mer in Paris. The Neo-Destor group was not in favor of these reforms if they themselves were not involved in their creation. They also demanded the freedom of Djerba, who was imprisoned on the Isle of Galite. Tunisia achieved independence from France on the 20th of March, 1956, with Habib Djerba as Prime Minister. The 20th of March is celebrated annually as Tunisian Independence Day. A year later, Tunisia was declared a republic with Djerba as the first president. From independence in 1956 until 2011 revolution, the government and Constitutional Democratic Rally, formerly Neo-Destor, and Socialist Destorian Party were effectively won. Following a report by Amnesty International, The Guardian called Tunisia one of the most modern but repressive countries in the Arab world. On the 12th of May, 1964, Tunisia nationalized foreign farmlands. Immediately after, France cancelled all financial assistance for the country, which amount to more than $40 million. This led to Tunisian National Assembly passing a bill that required all residents of the country to subscribe to a popular loan in proportion to their income. From 1977 until 2005, Tunisia was a shooting location for 5 films of the Star Wars film franchise. In 1982, Tunisia became the center of Palestine Liberation Organization, based in the capital Tunis. In November 1987, doctors declared Djerba unfit to rule, and in a bloodless coup d'état, Prime Minister Zine El Abidine Ben Ali assumed presidency in accordance with Article 57 of Tunisian Constitution. The anniversary of Ben Ali's succession, the 7th of November, was celebrated as a national holiday. He was consistently re-elected with enormous majorities every 5 years, well over 80% of the vote, the last being the 25th of October, 2009, until he fled the country amid popular unrest in January 2011. Ben Ali and his family were accused of corruption and plundering the country's money. Economic liberalization provided further opportunities for financial mismanagement, while corrupt members of Trabelsi family, most notably in the cases of Imd Trabelsi and Belhassan Trabelsi, controlled much of the business sector in the country. The First Lady Leila Ben Ali was described as unabashed shopaholic who used the state airplane to make frequent unofficial trips to Europe's fashion capitals. Tunisia refused French request for the extradition of 2 of the president's nephews from Leila's side, who were accused by the French state prosecutor of having stolen 2 megayachts from a French marina. According to Le Monde, Ben Ali's son-in-law was primed to eventually take over the country.